Hey there, Beverly Hills 90210 fans. It's now time to dive deep into an episode-by-episode, character-by-character, song-by-song account of the making of your favorite zip code. With your host, Charles Rosen.
I sit in a chair. It's one of Sandy's antiques. The whole thing breaks.
Larry Mullen.
He shouldn't be even in the show. I hope they're going to kill him, and they did.
Pete Ferrero.
Up my TV crush is Claire Arnold. So, I mean, she has to come on the show at this point.
And representing the fans, Lily Amarim.
Brian, I love you. I have dreamt about you.
What?
Along with many special guests. And your questions. So sit back and relax because it's like totally time for the Beverly Hills 90210 show.
Hey, here we are, and look who is joining us. This is really exciting. Prince Carl, Nick, is joining us here, man. Hey, let me ask you. Good, man. How's quarantine handling? How are you handling all that? How is things going on your end?
Yeah, it's all right. It's a little trying at times, but and then as far as acting work goes, it's all shut down. All production is not happening. So. That's all a bummer, and but it's all right. It's definitely makes you take a little time out and stop and think about things and assess and
Yeah.
So
now we also have with us too our usual suspect in Larry Mullen. Larry, you have a different background this week, so something's up.
I'm on the East Coast. Yes, you noticed I was traveling. I braved it out there across the country, went coast to coast, and the minute I left, California fell apart with the number of COVID. So I landed on a small island, and literally nobody wanted to see me, certainly, and I could understand. So I kind of self-quarantined a little bit, and then I got tested, and I am negative. So now I'm socially acceptable, and I plan to have a good time. I mean, in a responsible, safety way. And things on this island, I have to say, are very good. I mean, people really have it together. There's all masks in this town, and no problems, and people just use the beach. And it just it reminds me of a 60s.
And there's Michael Lange. Yeah.
There he is. He's pulling again. Okay. His mic didn't work. But I was talking, Michael, but I'm just going to finish up. Anyway, so I'm on Martha's Vineyard. I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry I missed the show on Wednesday. I heard it was great. And I'm glad to see Shari Weiss, who I've known for a long time. And I'm going to help throw to her a bit because she's next. And she really, I want to say, carried the torch of the show, even before Darren Martin, I think, through the dark ages, those ages when we kind of really weren't remembered, really. Yeah. And so that much love, and she's out of the 90210 business now, but her perspective is still fresh.
Yeah, right. Shari is filling in for Lily this week, and it's exciting.
And Shari, everyone stopped. Hello, Shari died.
No, we're still here. We're all still here. Hopefully that works out for you. Yeah. But Shari, it's great having you. I've read some of the interviews and stuff that you've done back in the day. Are you still a big 90210 fan? Are you obsessed with it as much as I am and the rest of us all are?
It's my passion. It's my lifelong passion. I started watching at 9 years old, which I think we can all agree is not an age-appropriate TV viewing. But ironically, we're discussing the season 6 finale tonight, and season 6 was when I started watching at 9 years old.
Wow.
But it's been a lifelong obsession that my friends and family can attest to. And in 2008, I started my website, teendramahorror.com, that was dedicated to the show as well as the shows that came after, because we all know what sparked the genre. And it was about a little over 10 years ago that I first interviewed Chuck. I interviewed Michael. I interviewed Larry, as well as a number of cast members, and then as well for the other teen dramas like Dawson's Creek and whatnot. And then, with my career, I wasn't able to continue with the website, unfortunately, though it remains up for all to read. So if anybody wants to go to teendramahorror.com, you can see all those interviews and all my coverage through the years. But it is still my all-time favorite show. It is still an obsession. There's things all over my apartment that tie back to the show. So nothing has changed for me at all.
And let me ask you, how you're on the East Coast too, right? So how is quarantine? How are you doing with all of that?
Well, I'm in Wilmington, which some people call Wilmingwood or Hollywood East, because up until the last couple of years, there was a big TV industry here. This is where Dawson's Creek filmed, One Tree Hill, and then a number of movies. Probably the biggest claim to fame is Iron Man 3 was filmed here.
Mhm.
We were doing okay. Things are starting to spike here a little bit, but we're not at Florida levels or anything like that.
Only
So.
Florida's at Florida levels.
Very
And
true.
also, okay, Michael Lange, how is everything going with you, man? Can you hear us? Can you see us? Can you speak?
I can hear. Uh-oh. Wait, the microphone went off. Hold on.
You sound wonderful.
Sounds good.
You sound wonderful.
I do?
You're good.
Yeah.
Right.
So how is everything on your end, Michael?
Everything is, good. Well, I tried to get headphones that connect, but not happening. So
That's okay. No, that's okay. There's no
I
rule.
need the sound man.
I understand why, Michael. You have to have the headphone jack in before you move into the studio. I've done this before. Seriously, you do. Otherwise, it doesn't take.
There's no jack on these. These are
no jack.
Bluetooth.
I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing.
Well,
Whatever.
as we're going to get into this, it's already starting. Everybody's starting to talk about Prince Carl looks great. I saw another one that said how handsome you were. Let me see if I can find that and pull that up. Oh, handsome Prince. So
Thank you.
I thought maybe they were talking about you, Larry, at first. But. Man, this is such a great season 6, very underrated season, and there's so many moving parts that happens. I want to start with Michael Lange here. I was just saying this before we came on. There is a lot of moving parts in this episode, this episode, I guess 2-part episode.
Right.
Is it like they just say to you, here's all the crazy shit we're going to do. Let's get Michael.
Basically, yeah. It was actually, well, it's funny because on that show, the normal episodes were 7 days, but for the 2 hours, you actually got 14 days. Okay. So we actually shot for 6 days on the Queen Mary, which was, I think, I'm going to say it was the most fun shooting I've ever had in my life. I actually stayed on the ship while we were shooting there, and it was like being on a cruise.
Totally.
And, it was so much fun to shoot there, and all the history, obviously, and the show itself was such a finely engineered show. It was written, and this is not just the 2-hour ones. This is the whole show in general. It was written to be so that the time that you had to shoot the show was enough time to do it really well. It wasn't overwritten like so many shows that I've worked on have been, where you have to take shortcuts, and they always end up showing. So, so even though this was definitely a huge episode, but given that we had 14 days to schedule it, it all worked great.
A lot of moving parts. Fight scene in the bar.
The scariest part was that at that time, I don't know if it's still there, but at that time, right next to the Queen Mary, they had a bungee jumping thing. And at one point we were getting ready I was setting up a scene, and I looked to my right, and Ian Ziering was leaping off, bungee jumping. The music, a call was made, and then Ian didn't do that anymore.
That makes sense. Nick, let me ask you, and Larry, I know you've got a lot of things to say. I saw somebody ask this real quick before. Lily is doing some family things today, so she couldn't join us, just to clarify that. Nick, how did this 90210 thing come into your universe? How did you Christian? Do you remember all of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think my agent got me the audition, and I went in and auditioned on the main lot where they shot all the episodes, and then I think I then went to I'd callbacks and went over to the spelling building over mid city there, and went into the famous the room, the giant room with the giant couch, and with everybody hanging out waiting for you, and pretty intimidating space. that everybody once never forgets once you've been there. And so I managed to get the part, audition for Aaron, and I think
I was there.
Even
Michael was there too,
Duke was there.
Were you there, Larry? Do you remember being there?
Michael?
No, Larry.
Oh, I was definitely there. Yeah, I did all the casting for the show. Yeah, because when especially when I was producing the show then, but when you wrote an episode, you always did the casting.
Definitely.
I wanted to just start just for a second because I was remiss in something. And I just wanted to straighten it out. I wanted to dedicate the show to someone who would be here, but he's not here, and that's Steve Wasserman, who was a non-entrepreneurial warrior for many years, as we know. And I wrote this with him. We had a lot of fun doing it. And before we even go to the Queen Mary, I want to tell you the other choices we had, because we wanted to make this a big show. And we had plotted in the whole thing with the prince so we could pull off a big birthday party, but we didn't know where we were going to have this birthday party. So we went down to San Diego. We went to the Coronado Hotel. It just seemed kind of ordinary.
But
then they
convinced. Yeah, cool location.
It's fantastic. What is that? The Stuntman is one of the great movies there, shot in the roofs there. So we thought about it, but it just didn't inspire anything. And then, we had some kind of deal, how when you go to these locations, or sometimes they give you stuff. We were going to go to the Wild Animal Park for the Roar and Snore, and overnight, like Steve would have a party. Michael, you're so lucky we didn't have this. They really were pushing this. They wanted a publicity for the Roar and Snore. And Steve and I just couldn't get into that Roar and Snore. And then I think Paul Wagner said, well, let's just try for the Queen Mary. And then, he liked it because it was close. It was sort of close. And then we went there. And like Michael said, my regret is I really couldn't work in a lot of the history of the ship, but I did work in history for the Prince, which was good. But I mean, the ship, once we saw that, we said, oh yeah, this is a Prince throws a party on the Queen Mary. And then, if the thing came into place, the Goo Goo Dolls manager called me up. They wanted to showcase on the show, and it was like great,
On that note about the Goo Goo Dolls, and I've got some little video clips. There's no audio to them, but when you were, because we cannot do that ever, no audio. When you got the call, call for the Goo Goo Dolls, or what were your options?
Well, we put out that we really want to have. We really want to have a big act there. And so probably went to a couple of the big management companies, and, not a lot of them really cared about it very much. So, but the Goo Goo manager did, and because, they were really hot then, and they really rock. I mean, geez. I mean,
this is the record. This is the Goo Goo Dolls, epic record. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I know.
I'm curious, Michael, was that fun? And I know we kind of shifted here to the Goo Goo Dolls. There's a lot to cover, but we're here, so let's stick.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. Michael, was that fun directing the Goo Goo Dolls? Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that?
They were great. They were great fun. I actually played in a band in high school, so I am a little bit of a musician, and. It was just great. It's always fun doing the videos anyway. We often did them on that show. I think we had there was a season finale that I did, I think the season before, that had Babyface. He was in it. And,
season 4.
There were quite a few bands that were on the show. So that was always a lot of fun shooting.
What were those guys like to direct? Was Johnny and those guys pretty cool, or did they divas in any way, or no?
No, they were really great. And they were pretty big at that point, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they had some huge hits. And no, they were super fun, and they really were into it. And of course, the extras, I think we had 250 extras there.
Right.
And they, showed up at work that day for their whatever they made, not realizing that they were going to hear the Goo Goo Dolls.
Curious to know about this. Is the Goo Goo Dolls playing, or is it a track that they're all just kind of...
Yeah, they played to it. You have to do, it has to be a pre-recorded track that they sync to.
Yeah.
And then we give them what's called earwigs so that they can hear, what they're playing to.
Yeah, I don't think...
I always encourage them to actually sing and play anyway, because otherwise it looks fake. Yeah. So I said, even if it sounds horrible, just do it and go for it and act as if it sounds great. And then it looks real. Because then their vocal, just little things that you can see when they're doing it for real.
Good job, Michael. It looked real.
Yeah. I love that first song that they did too. I don't know the name of it.
It's just great. I mean,
Nick, let me ask you, for you come into this.
A Long Way Down. Long Way Down is the song.
That's it. Long Way Down. So good. I'm going to pop it on in a little bit. Nick, when you get into this 90210 world, couple of questions. First, what is it like joining that group of the cast? They're all probably tight together, and here you come on to this thing. We ask that question to a lot of people, and sometimes the experience is great and whatnot. What is it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you come onto a new set that's already been like established, for years or whatever, it's always intimidating because they already have this whole, camaraderie and familiarity. So it's so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I got to say that everybody in the cast was super friendly and warm and real. There was no attitude there. Everybody was in good moods and real sweet and nice. And so they made me feel at home pretty quickly, comfortable.
That's
it did
cool.
take me a couple episodes maybe to because I was still kind of dipping my toes in the water of the whole, this is my biggest job to date, at that time. So I was, feeling everything out just on a personal, acting level as well. But they definitely were great, welcoming, and it was good.
And what about that experience of seeing the Google Dolls that we were just talking about? What was that?
Yeah, I mean, that was cool. You never forget that that one song, and whenever you hear it come up on the radio, you get like a nice warm fuzzy feeling. It floods back all those memories. So there's nothing but fond memories of that whole thing.
Now, Larry, there's a lot of moving parts here. So talk to me about the writing process of this episode. What did you know was important? What did you want to hit? What were the things that were like, shit, we got a lot to do here? And walk me through some of that.
It's a lot to do because you're doing a couple of things. You got to end the season with a bang, and you got to set it up for the following year, all the things that are happening. So I think in this episode, Brandon's going to get dumped.
Right.
Don and David are going to get back together. We know this is in the overall thing in the back of our head. We don't know how we're going to get to these points. We know Brandon's going to get dumped because we're not bringing the gal back.
Right.
We know David and Donna we want them to get back together. We've waited long enough because they're the long game for us always. That they're eventually going to get married. We know way down the line when we're all dead and gone. From the show, from the show.
I know.
It happened all too fast for some. And we're going to get rid of Colin Robbins, and what else is happening here? And also we're going to re-bond Steve and Claire. We're going to double down on the Steve and Claire, and we need to challenge that relationship. And we bring in Nick playing Prince Carl. And I just want to say something now because I watched it again, and I didn't really remember partly your performance and hopefully the writing a little bit too. But we did not make the guy an asshole. That's what I'm so good about it. It's a very difficult choice for her. Very, very difficult because he's so charming. And at the same time, we're doing a kind of a PG version of the Indecent Proposal where, someone's going to basically pimp out his wife or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But he made it. I just was really impressed with how you played those moments because it easily, and Michael also, obviously, a fantastic hand on that. But really, the tone of it was so good that it made it really, really real and difficult decision, and probably the wrong decision ultimately for Claire. I'm thinking like, no, don't go with Steve. He's got to get rid of you the next year. Don't do that.
I wanted to ask you at the top of this episode too. Some interesting stuff happens. You start talking about. There's a scene where Brandon and Valerie are talking, and Jonesy says he knows where Dylan is, right? And we're going to play with this update, this entire update of where Brenda is and all this stuff. I'm curious to know what this thing going on, and you're bringing a lot of people back. We're going to talk about that. But was there a thought to bring back either of them for this particular episode, or how is this coming to be that you're writing this?
Well, first of all, this is Steve Sanders' 21st birthday party, so it's going to be big, and we want everyone to celebrate with him because that's Steve. And so And I think for people like Shari and the real fans, we're keeping those other characters alive. We know what they're doing every day. We know that she's in London, but now she's on tour in Scotland. And Dylan now is in her address. So all that stuff we wanted to lay in, but that was only after we were turned down to have them. We went upstairs to the mistress house and said, it's Steve's birthday. Can we at least shoot a happy, we want to get something with the Brent, the character. And he went, I don't think so, Leonard. I don't know. And then, and Luke wasn't interested. He was already off something else. And we weren't going to go back there at that point with him, but we kept them alive. We kept them alive, certainly. And that's important because, again, that's for the real fans to really understand and wonder what's Brenda doing in London. We felt, and they were real to us, those characters. I mean, we were all in on that stuff.
I want to show you guys, I'm going to follow up on that, but someone's joining us here.
It's months. Months at the party.
How y'all doing? Nice to see y'all.
It was a very restrained Munts. I watched the video, the show, and Munts is it's the most restrained he is. He's dressed up nicely at the party, and he doesn't hit on any women. Someone else hits on him. Nicely done, sir.
Thank you. I did a little dancing, a little clapping, and the entire episode I was wondering, why am I here right now?
But you were a keg brother. We could afford it. We could afford it. Yeah. It's a huge party.
Well, I was surprised there wasn't more months. You know what I mean? I need a heavy dose of months. I'm studying another episode, and there's a lot of months in it. So we'll talk about that next week. But Ryan, I do that all the time, calling you months. Sorry.
That's all good. Everybody does.
Ryan, for you, we were just talking about the Google Dolls thing. What was that experience like for you? Maybe talked about a little bit about the Queen Mary and that whole thing from your end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like any guest that comes on, as far as a musical guest is concerned, it was always really neat to meet them before we shot the episode. Most of them were great. I mean, one of my favorites was the Brian Setzer Orchestra, for sure. But I mean, everybody, we had the Cardigans, we had the Rolling Stones, the Goo Goo Dolls. I mean, we had Babyface. Everybody came and did the show. As far as the Goo Goo Dolls are concerned, to be honest with you, I liked everybody in the band except for the lead singer.
Oh boy.
he was just a little so full of himself that I was just like, I see the kind of guy you are, but thanks for doing the show anyway. Of course I didn't say that, but hey, nice to meet you. But all in all, the Goo Goo Dolls were great. Every time we had a musical guest, it was just awesome. We get a little mini concert for free,
So now we have a different opinion, Michael. You said
I know.
Wonderful.
Actually, there was one Larry. The line that he says we don't normally do birthday parties. Did you write that one, or did he throw that in?
I think he threw that in.
Yeah.
That's what actually, that moment there, Steve Sanders has a selfie in 1995.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my God. Wow, talk about pressure.
On that note, Larry, I notice every time a musical artist comes in, they want to always make it clear, we don't normally do birthday parties. I've noticed every single one kind of lets everybody know that this is like we really think that the Goo Goo Dolls are coming to your birthday. It's not happening, So I was going to ask Months also one more thing. Again, Ryan, sorry.
It's all good, dude. Just call me Months.
Yeah, it's cool. What was the experience like being on that Queen Mary boat for you?
Oh, it was great. I've never been on anything quite like it, to be honest with you. You just walk in and it's just jaw drop. You're like, wow, everything is so beautiful. It was cool, especially just driving to go to set, basically driving up to that thing. You're like, oh wow, this is where I get to spend the day. Really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
We actually built not a lot, but some of the things we did were sets, like the stateroom. Those were all sets, and then the lobby, the actual Queen Mary lobby, is pretty small. So we actually built the lobby that we shot at the studio.
Oh, okay. So some stuff is on a studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. My other thing here, and this is probably for Nick. Obviously, we're going to talk about somebody who is a big part of this episode, and I knew this was coming this week, but
update.
Tell me.
No, I mean it. You've been a really great friend.
Look,
No, I mean it.
Tell me about working with Kathleen Robertson, Claire Arnold.
Right. No, she was great. Again, I mean, listen, she was fun to work with, and I was happy that I got to rewatching the episode last night. I was really happy that I got a chance to work with her, and also I got to kiss her, which was great.
Right.
Thank you.
She was
Thank
great. She's a great actress, and Steve Ian was also great to work with. They both made me feel real comfortable, and they were just easy to work off of. So,
I mean, you had a lot of work with her. I mean, for this particular stuff, We had Weiss on a couple weeks ago, and he was just told a great story about how welcoming she was to him as a guest star. Did you find that she did some of that with you guys as well, or no?
Yeah, are you talking to me? Yeah.
No, sorry, yeah, Nick. Yeah,
yeah. She was great. I mean, listen, again, Tori, we went out of her way to talk to me, and Jenny Garth, and of course, we worked together a lot, Kathleen and I, and over the weeks, I think we did 5 episodes together. So she was nothing but real sweet, and got to know each other a little bit. But and then Steve, Ian is always clowning around, his personality, and a lot of fun to be around, and a lot of fun to work with, and makes everything easy, and yeah, it was great. So
very cool. Larry, on that note, this is the time of the show where we'll talk about if anyone's heard from Kathleen, because we have a question to get Kathleen Robertson on the show. We have not heard from Kathleen, but we have heard from somebody that is close to Kathleen, and they are going to reach out to Kathleen for us. So that's where we are with that. But so it's possible. It's very possible. I think
it's possible. I have a good feeling, because we had to differentiate that this was not kind of like a fanzine. We don't want to know about her personal life and she's kissing or whatever. This is a serious discussion of the show, and a look back, and a chance to give her some love for the fantastic job she did in the show. And we have such great guests anyway. So I mean, everyone's doing the show. It's the 30th anniversary coming up in October.
Right, which I
and
found
that's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big deal.
We got a lot of really cool guests coming on, and I hope that she will. Listen, I said she's my TV crush, but the reality of it is she's such a extremely talented actor. You know what I mean? And being able to talk with her about the work that she did in the early stages of her career would be absolutely phenomenal. She's doing a lot of awesome things right now. So it would be cool to talk about that and this. So that's the update on Kathleen.
It's getting closer. I have a good feeling.
I do too.
We've made some progress this week.
Yes, big progress. Shari,
she's in Canada, though. The border's closed, unfortunately.
That is true. Shari, do you have any questions that you'd like to throw into the mix here?
I do, yes, but I just want to touch on some things that have been said already.
Cool.
Larry, I love your dedication to Steve, coming right now in particular, because it was the anniversary of his passing just a few days ago, and Jessica. Yes, Jessica posted about that on Facebook. So it's very bittersweet timing to have this episode, and your tribute is lovely. Months for Ryan, it was funny rewatching the episode and realizing that you didn't actually have any lines in the episode. You just got
we wanted to pay him.
The only knowledge I had was the strip club. I knew where it was at,
Yeah, there's a Peeler bar up the road. Yeah, but it made sense that Steve would have his keg brothers, or at least the most recognizable keg brother there. I did not know that you guys had tried to get, Luke and Shannon to do cameos. In Luke's situation, granted, this is only the end of season 6, and he had just left earlier in season 6. So I would understand it from his viewpoint if he wasn't, ready to return in some way. But I think what you did was a very creative workaround. But you did get some awesome throwbacks because you had Gabrielle come, and Gabby actually got to play a pivotal role in the episode. And then you had Carol and James film their cameo. And there's even that video sequence, that montage for Ian, and getting to have Ian's own childhood photos in that video just to add to the authenticity is amazing. And then going over to Nick, in some ways you would say that Claire did make the wrong choice because of the way that relationship fell apart the next season. But then there's this alternative universe that once she goes to Paris,
I do wonder about that, Larry.
She reunites.
I'm there with that. I like that.
Let's ask Larry here. What happened with Claire and Carl in the future? Do you have a thought on that? On what may or may not happened?
Look, I think we set in this episode, we set some really good things up. I mean, their parents, their mothers wanted them together. I mean, it's so it always there's plenty of time for that to work itself out. Why not? Right after she graduates college and she ends up in Europe, I would not be surprised. He is going to send a plane for her. He's going to send her back. What was the country, Nick? Do you remember? What's the name of it? Somebody, please. What's the name of it?
You can't pronounce it.
Montmartre or something like that, right?
You got it.
Yeah,
that was
so it was like,
again, we didn't want to make it Middle Eastern. We're looking for like kind of a Luxembourg-y kind of a thing, like Grand Fenwick or something like that.
Zara Brown, Claire and Prince were meant to be. Why didn't you ship them both? They had better chemistry. So thank you very Zara again for adding to that.
We were not ready to give up on. We were not going to release
Claire
Arnold. So we felt we really liked her. We admired her work tremendously, and she got in really well with the other gals, which is I'm glad to hear that everyone was nice to you, because I'm kind of surprised sometimes that they're not, but it's good. It's good. We'll keep that. One thing I can say though, it was the end of the season, so there was a rap party, right, Michael? We had a big rap party for the season. It was the end of the season, so there was a rap party on the Queen Mary too, which I do remember very well.
So
that's why everyone was happy, because they were already leaving. Work was over.
I do have some questions about some of the other storylines in the episode, but just going to Nick for a second, do you credit your experience here and being in front of Aaron for getting you on to Sunset Beach and kind of setting up the next phase of your career?
Yeah, that definitely helped, without a doubt. I mean, so Sunset Beach was a spelling production along with a couple with NBC. So I had done a screen test back in New York for Another World. And so between Aaron being on the show, Aaron putting me on the 90210, and then the screen test from Another World, NBC had that screen test. So they used those two kind of things to hire me for Sunset Beach. Yeah,
amazing.
So I didn't even have to audition for Sunset Beach. They just
wow.
It was unfortunate. They just offered me the job.
Larry, I want to circle back. I want to circle back on this video sequence that Shari mentioned. We're seeing all they're in the party, and we're seeing all these video. She said Jim and Cindy's in this thing. Steve's brothers are in this thing. I'm surprised Steve's brothers didn't come to the party. I'm curious to know.
Only 1 day work. We're only going to pay him 1 day work. No, look, I mean, again, it was going to be a big show. I mean, Steve and I wanted a big show here, and we wanted to celebrate Steve. So it was a chance to, first of all, we always felt bad about having to lose Cindy and Jim. So it's a way to kind of get them, some work, and also to contribute the part of the universe. Again, keep things going for the fans. I think we have Ellen, the transvestites in the show, in that montage,
right?
And then we have the two monkey children. Randy Spelling, that was, and the other kid, his name is Austin something, I can't remember, but they're pretty good. They're cute and they're in it, and it was just we wanted to warm it up, and then we also wanted to lead in the fact we wanted to give Andrea a good entrance, because we actually were bringing her back, and she's much beloved and deserved every bit of it. So
a couple questions on that. So did you pitch all of those at the same time that you're pitching Brenda too? Or
just kind of didn't have to. No, that was not a pitch to the old man. We just did that, and people followed along. You know, that was not a, that was, we didn't, you know, everyone, it was just, you know, they were just day players, basically. I mean,
got you. Now, for Andrea, though, now she comes back and she does this. She's amazing in this. Is there any conversations with everybody like, wow, it's good to see you? Like, maybe we'll do something next year. We should get you back. Is there any kind of thoughts on like getting her back into the fold?
No. I'm very bad at that. I believe in the show like this, a baby is a show killer. Oh. It's sad to say, some things just kill a show, and a baby is one of them. And not that there's anything wrong with it, because you know we all have children, but there was just nowhere to go with that. Really, that was for Melrose or for a different kind of show. It was not for different. You know, it was just. It wasn't going to work, and you know, and again, well, we'll get into that another time when we have Gabrielle here. Sure. You know, she was a, you know, and we did pretty good by her. Look, you know, we gave her a great pregnancy thing, and you would bring her back for significant things, and this is one of those. You know, yeah. Well, she's part of the universe, the fan universe. You know, we want to keep that alive and give people who've paid get their equity, you know, for watching all those episodes. You know. I mean, that was what really motivated us in a lot of ways. We knew people knew the show better than us. We better pay attention, you know? Yeah. Okay, this other person here I want to ask about. You mentioned that she was going to leave. And, you know, I know she is so good in this series, Susan Keats. I've always preferred Brandon with Susan Keats. I'm curious about your experience working with her and this decision not to bring her back, and what kind of thoughts you guys had on writing that character out of the show? Well, look, I mean, this was a real different relationship for Brandon. This is almost like a professional grown-up relationship. There's a woman who is as ambitious as he is, and in fact, more so. And again, in the long run of the series, we knew he was going to end up with Kelly Taylor because that's going to be season 7. So she basically is serving the show here the same way, you know, it happens. That's what she had a shelf life. Now, it could have broken apart and become something else like Kathleen did. Kathleen had, you know, limited episodes also. But I think this relationship is pretty good. I mean, you know, Michael got to work with her closely, so I want to hear what he has to say with it. But to me, it's really challenging for Jason personally because this girl is theoretically his dream girl. She's as smart as him, as committed as him, and driven as him. And they're like, and we tried to write this, you know, because we're old people, like Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, you know, kind of like the Death Set thing. The two of them working together, two equals. Yeah. And in this episode, she totally screws him. It's just so fantastic. Yeah. Michael, what was she like to work with? I mean, you were really close.
Well, you know, she was really good to work. I mean, really good to work with. And the fun thing about it was, I think her character challenged Jason's character, and she also challenged Jason. So it was kind of an interesting relationship, more so than, you know, I mean, the others all were so used to working together. And so I think when she came along, because she was not that different from the character that she played. So, you know, a very strong woman, had opinions, very professional. And I think, like I said, she challenged Jason as an actor to be his best self, which was kind of cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Their scenes play really well. It's strong. Yeah. I mean, she really gets under Jason's skin. I mean, I like seeing that.
Yeah. I remember during prep that we talked about the whole Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
I thought maybe she should have went to Washington, D.C. He should have went to Washington, D.C. with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is when Jason leaves in season 9, Brandon is going to D.C. to take a job at the Washington Bureau of the New York Chronicle. So maybe they're back off. But
you never know.
In hindsight, what's amazing in this episode with that storyline in particular is that there's a really great Hillary Clinton joke. When they say Brandon quips as the home of the president and her husband. At the time, you know, this is 1996 in Bill's second term, and Hillary is finding her own. And little did we know how many years later it actually could have been that.
Well, there's always that thing about The Simpsons predicting the future. Larry, are you accessing whatever?
Well, I went to school with Bill Clinton. He's a friend of mine, actually. That's pretty cool. I missed that. But, thinking about Jason in this episode particularly, there's a lot of improv between Ian and Jason. And there's one at the beginning of the show that just cracked me up, which is, I think it's in Susan Keats's newsroom. And the guy said, hey, did you hear that? Every Greek in the thing is going to be down at this party. And they're walking out, and it's just a throwaway. Michael leaves it in. He encourages it probably. And James goes, Greeks? But no Italians? No Fallopians. No Fallopians. But kind of like a little bit subversive there, and got past the censors. I don't even remember. I can't take credit for it. Do you remember this, Michael?
I do.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny because most of the time, I have amazing respect for writers, and because I always think at least I get something to start with, and they get nothing to start with. So, and I'm normally I think actors, for the most part, with all due respect to the two actors who are on these other two screens, the ad libs, to me, when I'm watching a show, I can usually tell when it's an ad lib because it just bumps me a little bit. But these guys were right. They were really great. And until you said this just now, I thought those were some good lines that Larry wrote.
Well, they had their bromance going.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of them in this one, too. For some reason, Jason was fixated. Every time Brenda was mentioned, that living in London, Jason would always add, and the outlying areas. The outlying only found funny. And the outlying. But we kept it in. Yeah. Again, it's part of the charm of
Yeah. That's funny, man.
I mean, also the bar fight. Well, we should get to the part two, but the bar fight, there's lots of improv lines in there too. With
Holly Shore.
Yeah. Well, let's hold on that. But I want to ask you, another person that's leaving at this point is, and he's literally running away, is Colin.
Now, he's a very good runner.
You brought Colin in. Obviously, was this another thing for the season only? And did you know Colin would leave at the end of this season as well? Same question about Susan.
Yes, I mean, he was hired for the episodes of that season, so we had obviously an option to pick him up, but there was really nowhere to go with him. I mean, so basically, we sent him on a high-speed chase. It was very precious of us. That's the biggest thing in LA. High-speed chases for the news. That was the sweeps episode, of course. So we kind of doubled down on it was like a sweeps episode where the news has car chases, and we had a car chase. So it was really good. And then it's pretty good action there, Michael. Nice job there. In our limited way to be able to do things like this, it looks pretty credible. Yeah. And Jason Wilds is a good runner. As are Jason Priestley and Ian. I mean,
they are good. How about that thing in the inside of the warehouse where Jason loses balance and falls? I had forgotten about that.
Is that Jason or is that a stunt double?
The wide shot from below is a double, but he actually did it. We harnessed him in so he wouldn't fall, and he did the little fall there, and he was actually hanging on.
He played it really cool, very casual.
I mean, that was I mean, we made it look like everyone was involved with the capture of Colin. It was like it kind of worked. I mean, I worked on police shows. I couldn't have pulled that off.
That's right. Actually, it's funny. I was thinking they should have gone to work for the FBI, right?
Michael, that guy we didn't bring back. We liked the guy who played with Valerie, the gentleman. I can't remember his name, John, I think. Yeah, but it never really came up that he was going to bring him back, but we kind of liked it a bit.
Well, but I mean, there is sort of like an indication that he's sticking around for the summer.
We were leaving an option open, but I think we were convinced we wanted her to go to a married man next. We were plotting her demise, basically. Taking her down, the worst we can do. It's like a heel in wrestling.
For the horrific world of Hollywood, do you tell this actor we're thinking that the character is probably going to come back for season 7? Has he got this hope that this might be happening, or
Nick knows this? I mean, I mean, it's just when you look. I think you do that if you're really trying to make sure you're going to close the deal with the guy. You're saying that this part can come back, but I don't think in this case. I think he was just casting, and we liked the guy, and he had a nice easy way. I don't know if he had a career or not, but it worked well for the episode with Valerie.
IMDb. Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it was definitely served the purpose of this particular storyline for sure. Okay, let's talk about that. Well, Mike, I wanted to ask Michael about the chase scene. When you get this script, right, and you see, oh, it's a fun little birthday party. Wait, what? There's a chase scene?
Jason, there's a fight, a bar fight, and a chase.
Polo game.
Goo Goo Dolls, polo game.
Right. Walk me through how you kind of plot all of this stuff in your head. How do you do that as a director? And also...
After I reawaken from passing out. It's funny because I'm going to say it's easy, but obviously it's not easy. But it's great when you get a script like this. My head just starts getting all the images, and I just start figuring out. And I know, like I said before, the show was really the crew on that show, from the producers down, was just top notch, and everyone had their act together, and I knew that we would figure out how to get it done. Mm-hmm. So then basically all I have to do is sort of play, which was just great. I mean, when I looked at all these, and as I said, it was a 14-day schedule. So it's funny because we shot 3 days, like I think it was a Wednesday and a Thursday and a Friday, and then on the Queen Mary, and then we shot the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I stayed on the Queen Mary on the nights between those days, because I lived in the Hollywood Hills. So I thought, we're going to be working so many hours to get all this done, and I don't want to have to drive another hour in and out. We ended up wrapping early every day on the Queen Mary. We wrapped early. And so it was great because, we'd wrap, and then we'd go to one of the outdoor lounges, have a drink and appetizers. It was fantastic. But the reason we wrapped early is because a lot of times when you're shooting something, you lose people. The cast wanders off, and then by the time you find them, but no one went anywhere because we were all on the boat. Where are they going to go?
Chase says the Steve Brandon Colin chase is my favorite part of the episode. So that's great. Do you remember that from the director's standpoint, Michael? We talked a little bit about it. Do you remember directing those guys?
Yep. Yeah, we shot. That was one sort of big day. We did the bar and the chase scene in the warehouse in San Pedro.
Which is the real thing.
The real thing. Yeah, we shot it real. Oh, you know what? No, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think the interior of the bar was on stage.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we built that on stage.
That does.
That's impressive.
Into the bar now. Let's talk about that. We do, as Shari mentioned, we see Pauly Shore at the bar. Larry, how does Pauly Shore
I remember what happened there. Okay, again, Steve Watchman and I were having a lot of fun. We really had, and Steve, again, it was a very tough year for him because him and Jessica, as everyone knows, they stopped being a writing couple at that point. They were separated. So this was another strain on 32 hours a year. But Steve and I are having fun with this, and Tiffany, we found out, was going out with Pauly Shore. They had met at on the movie. What was it? Down on the Farm or something, or some kind of a farm thing. She goes, or he comes and visits a farm or something. And so that was her boyfriend. So we said, hey, we knew we wanted to do something ridiculous on Steve's party, which was going to end him up in jail. That much we knew. It's your birthday party. You're going to end up in jail. And also, him and Brandon gets dumped, and Steve, screws it up with Claire. He gives his girlfriend over to the prince. So we knew they were both going to be bummed out in the bar, and we figured we're going to do a bar fight. So then we said, well, what if we had like Pauly Shore do it? And we called up, and it was all right with Tiffany, and his manager said, great, and he cracks me up.
There he is. Yeah, it's not audio, video clip. Yeah, sorry.
Oh man, it's just if you watch that thing, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And I think Steve Improv's line there was, I don't know whether to pick you up and thank the Academy or.
I do remember that.
I did not write that. Steve did not write that. But so they were really on their game in that bar fight, and of course that was the way again to get them in the Colin chase, because of course that's where the bar where Colin was, and it was So, again, we were being good writers. That every scene was doing a lot of work. It wasn't just doing one storyline. We had a couple of storylines going there, and that kind of led to the chase, which were there. But the bar fight's good. I like the casting of the mean guy who picks on Steve.
Right.
Right.
You remember this guy? I mean, there was some good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But Liz says that she just can't see Tiffany and Pauly Shore together. And now that's sort of gotten everybody in the room talking about that.
Yeah.
Lori says, I know, right? Yeah. It is definitely a mismatch. Maybe.
I don't think it was a long range thing, but you know what? It served the purpose of the show, so I appreciated it.
What is it about you, Larry, that you like to bring the boyfriends and girlfriends of actors?
Just because they're, you can get through them easy, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, it's always a mistake because they don't last very long, unfortunately. Nick probably, I'm sure. Nick, are you a married man, by the way? Or?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, sure.
Oh, boy.
But it's always tough stuff on sets, though. It's, especially when your girlfriend or your guy friend is having romantic scenes with the other cast members, which of course drives you crazy.
Right.
Do you remember developing Nick's character, the prince character, and whatnot? And what was that process like for you? And
well, again, we were going to weave this tale working through Claire Arnold's mother, her dead mother. We're kind of really trying to do a touchstone psychological point on her. And so we're just working backwards. We're kind of trying to figure out, and then the father, she's got her father who she adores. And it would seem quite possible that he would be internationally, he would be around, and, you could have this relationship. And we just kind of felt we needed someone to throw the party for Steve, and so you could have rich people. And we just said a prince, as long as he was going to be from like the Luxembourg thing, we thought we could make that work, And like I said, the thing that I find really great is that we didn't really make him a cartoon. We didn't really make him an asshole or arrogant. He's just a great guy, really. And
it's also a credit to how Nick. It's also a credit to how Nick played him, because
and Michael directed him.
The wrong actor could have totally played that totally differently and gotten that all wrong. Nick, do you remember coming up with this character and how you wanted to do this and develop it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back because I thought while I was like trying to figure out how to play it, and I'm sure. Larry or some of the directors, Michael maybe, and Pryor had those other episodes too. So maybe they steered me in the right direction. And but I thought, I couldn't go play this guy like a jerk, and that was. And I thought, well, it's not really written like that though. So let me kind of just try to do it, like how I feel like it's written, and then so it, I guess it worked out all right, Yeah, but there was some tendencies to, maybe make him a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more kind of, just I don't know, like more of a fighting guy or something. But I just kind of decided to play it to a little bit more kind of low key and
Yeah,
he'd be a good monarch today. He'd be a good ruler of the country today. I'd like to be on the throne right now.
With that, Michael, I'm curious, Michael. Do you remember directing Nick?
I do. Mm-hmm. No, and I remember. I mean, he had already been in a few episodes, so the character was already set. But I was so happy that it didn't turn out to be this sort of stereotypical rich kid prince, who thought he had the world by the coyotes and. So it was great that he played it sort of against what you'd expect. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I love
Val Marin's excited that you're single. She's asking.
Michael, I remember working with you, and you had a good bond with all the because you must have directed a bunch of episodes, and you had a great bond with the whole cast. And everybody, so everybody like enjoyed working with you, and you guys all had the back and forth, banter, and so it was a lot of fun, working with you.
I just remembered something I wanted to mention because there's also a storyline in here out of left field. Nat's girlfriend gets pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask you.
I got to tell you, first of all, Julie Parrish was a friend of mine. The girl who plays Joan, Julie Parrish, was an Elvis girl. Okay, she was something else. She's a friend of mine. She died way too young. There she is there. And she was perfect for Nat. I really thought they worked out well together.
Yeah.
I don't know how we thought we could believe this storyline, but for some reason, I was surprised by when I saw it. Oh, you did that?
I'd forgotten about that.
I had forgotten that.
I had totally forgotten.
Like I said, I love Julie so much, and she's such a dear girl. If you watch Elvis, I think Love Him Hawaiian Style or whatever, she plays his girlfriend. She was fantastic. But I don't know. I mean, I guess,
where did that come from, Larry? Is that
I don't know, desperation or something. We had to have something. It was getting late. We had to get the pages to Michael. I don't remember. Tell me out here. Did you? What did you think of that? Did that play for you?
Well, I think you have to start at the beginning of the season, and you have Joey become a series regular, or at least in the opening credits. So this is the third season where he's in the opening credits, which lends reasoning to give him more of a storyline that's kind of independent from the characters as opposed to him serving the other characters. And so I guess the culmination of that is the relationship with Joni progressing over the season. And then even with that, it is obviously left field to think that a couple of their age is going to have a baby. But then we see it play out in season 7. She goes into labor. She goes into labor at the wedding that they're supposed to have. So that's really interesting. And just in my research for this episode, I had not even realized that Julia had passed. And I saw that she did pass back in 2003. And I was really sad to see that. Another observation about, I have a couple questions about other storylines.
This chase line, the condom joke is hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to make Yeah, it's very.
How long have you been keeping that in your wallet? It's genius. But another thing
that was the only thing we could think of,
But it's interesting that this season is actually kind of bookended by birthdays. In the 2-hour premiere, you have Kelly's birthday. Now we're at the 2-hour finale, and you have Steve's birthday. And it's the only season where that happens. So that's really interesting. But going back to Colin for a second, kind of a 2-part question there. It's the culmination of his storyline. But did you know in the beginning, when you introduced him in the premiere, that where his character was going to go, that it was going to go south? And then this second part that's kind of related is not, so I understand that partially the reason you need to get rid of Susan is to set up Brandon and Kelly for season 7. But if you're Kelly, if you don't find out that Dylan is back with Brenda in London, do you come on to Brandon? Would she have gone that route anyway?
A lot of good questions there, Larry. That's all you. That's your
well, the Colin one, like I said, I think, sometimes he wasn't going to go the distance. We were using him as the bad boy, and we just burned him right the hell out. I mean, so there was nowhere for him to go. We had already learned our lesson with with Ray Pruitt 1T. So we just were basically not exploiting him. We're just giving him good stuff. We're going to use him to really spark a lot of the action, and also there's some terrific Val Kelly stuff in this episode too. Really sharp stuff between them. And again, for Kelly, this episode, this season has been a terrible year, but she's made nothing but mistakes, and so it's really. It's like a bittersweet, Steve's birthday party is a little bit bittersweet for her. So in a way, it's great. But we also have the guy we should mention. I can't remember the guy's name, but he plays Eric Budman.
Oh, right.
An old friend of mine from Toronto, who hits on every woman in the cast, which is kind of
so good.
It keeps everybody going. But oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
This is a buddy of yours, Larry?
No, well, just the name, but yes, kind of. There's no way he's listening. He invented Roots shoes, Roots. Anyway, that Michael, hello. What was the second part of that question? It was important, I know.
Well, did you know in the beginning where the direction with Colin was going to go?
And yes,
And then the
And
question
then-
was about Dylan and Kelly.
Kelly's motivation. Yeah, the Colin thing. Yes, we did. Once we got into the cocaine thing and just started, we knew we were going to just burn him through, and it was going to just take Kelly down. Basically, we had a bunch of stuff in there and take her down. We had the whole rehab thing, which hopefully we can get Paige Moss. We want to get here too, who played Tara. But yes, we thought that would just add to Kelly's misery to think that Dylan was with Brenda. Again,
added to my misery.
What did she have left? I mean, we really wanted to. What's that? Your misery?
Yeah,
we just thought that was really gonna. That plays out really well. All of a sudden, he's like, the thing is sent from the address in London that Brenda is. He's like basically house sitting supposedly. So we kind of left it open. But no, we just wanted to let that to play on it. And that's what's so great about this show is that the audience is so invested that we don't even have to have the characters on the show.
Yeah.
They are totally psyched into this episode. That was an important moment. So, I mean, yes, the answer to the question is yes. I mean, we thought that was going to push them together even more because only Brandon would understand that betrayal in a certain way. So it pushes her to him. And it makes for a tasty ending.
For sure.
I've said it many times, but in our office, we had that sign, kissing is good.
Renee B's on YouTube. And by the way, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'd be very helpful for us. So if you follow us anywhere else, follow us on YouTube and subscribe there. The Val versus Kelly scenes in this one are so great, is what she said, essentially. I just paraphrased.
The David and Donna stuff also, Michael played really well. The romantic night, I was... I had done a play on a cruise ship, which had all the different things set out. And, so I wanted to have that romantic night. And Michael, we get David and Donna together. And, that was really hot stuff for people, to see them back together and kissing at the end. That was an important part of the show. And also an important part to show Mr. Spelling.
Oh, interesting. Michael, what is it like directing some of the more romantic? We talked about the action stuff. What is it like directing some of the more romantic scenes between the characters?
It's fun. I'm a pretty eclectic guy. For me, everything is fun and great. And actually, there's this one shot, my kind of my favorite shot in a romantic scene. I pretty much always do it. And this was when they were kissed. Who was it now?
Ian, maybe Steve and Claire.
When they were kissing it was on the Queen Mary.
Yeah,
and
the boat.
On the boat. We were at the bow of the boat, and you see the boat behind them, and it's that classic profile two-shot that's a little too close for comfort. It's sort of like there, just the two of them. You see the lips coming together, and the boat's back there, and I think it was magic hour, so the light was perfect, and it's like, loved it. So that's how I feel about shooting romantic scenes.
Oh, well, I'm curious though, specifically with Donna and David, or Tori and Brian. We'll call him David. Do you feel that natural chemistry and heat between the two of them since they've known each other for so long, working together?
Me, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. The thing is, actors, good actors can sort of, I don't know. I was about to say good actors can make chemistry, but actually, I'm not so sure that's true. Like with them, it was palpable because I think they did, like you said, they have been working together for so long, and they're both good actors, and I think they really felt it between each other. But yeah, they were great.
Yeah. Nick, I'm curious from the acting perspective of that. Is it important to feel those moments, even with what you did with Kathleen and for Carl and Claire? Is it important to really be in those moments? And how do you get yourself in a moment like that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is important to kind of, my go-to thing is I'll just really try to listen as hard as I can. You got your intention and what your motivation of your character, and you try to kind of get that all into place, before the scene even kind of starts. But once the scene starts, then you just start working off the other actor, and what your motivation, your feelings are towards the other character. And you just take what they throw at you, and then just react off of that from there. And it usually, works out if everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and you have a lot of these great bromance scenes with Ian too, right? And somebody brought up this before that. Then, of course, Ian or Steve punches Carl, right? Sorry, Carl, which is one of my favorite scenes. Do you remember seeing that scene with Ian?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, I was watching the episodes, and Larry, there's a line in the first part where Claire is talking to Steve about, he's going to ask you for a favor, you make some sort of a reference to the Godfather or something, and sure enough, it's a foreshadow. Then it becomes clear in the second where I'm like, hey Steve, we're best friends. It makes sense that we'd fall for the same girl, kind of a thing. It was interesting how those scenes were written too, because they're kind of hard scenes to play, because it's like there's a very fine line of like, this is my good friend, and at the same time, I want a chance, I'm falling in love with your girlfriend, kind of a thing, and staying kind of collegial and at the same time. So it's an interesting balance that had to be, I thought, pulled off. It was, a lot of it had to do with the writing.
Yeah.
Ryan, you actually got to do a little bit of romance yourself. Someone reminded me in the comments that you have that scene where you're getting it on in Andrea's dorm room, and she opens the door and walks in on you. And then later, I guess it's season 9, and you mentioned it earlier, when the Brian Setzer Orchestra comes, and now you're a married man.
Yeah.
And so those were your two romantic poles in the show.
Yeah. How do you feel about the chemistry thing? You and Andrea had chemistry when.
Are you talking? Let me see. Andrea's. When I was with my girl,
he's making out with a girl.
Yeah. That was. It's funny. That was my first and only bedroom scene. And I remember vividly when they approached me and they're like, "Hey, we're going to throw you in this bedroom scene and you get caught in Steve and Andrea's dorm room." And I'm like, "Me?
It's going to be funny.
Have you seen my hairy back? Okay, this is going to play well." But it did. It worked out. It worked out awesome.
Oh, that's so funny.
Hey, Michael Lange. So you've shot some kissing now in the last couple of years. I know you're still an active director. Yeah, it must be so different now. I would think all the things we took for granted, all the kissing we did now has to have a whole thing, papers signed and all things, and a coach there and the sex coach.
Yeah, I actually haven't had the joy of doing that yet with a coach, but there's now I haven't done one yet with the coach. That's a relatively new thing now. So I can't even imagine it. And now, of course, with COVID, who knows what that's going to be.
Nick, have you had that experience lately? Have you kissed anybody in the last 5 years?
No. It's been a little while. So everything is, status quo.
They did mock that sort of on the reboot. They did something where they had a coach for Donna.
Right.
When Tori, David, exactly, Brian. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. Glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Sherry, what else you got? You got some more questions to throw to the mix?
Let's see here. I think there's an interesting comparison to make in terms of your plans, Larry, and how you plot things. At the end of the season, you essentially have David and Donna agree to give their relationship another go, but Kelly and Brandon kind of turned her down. And you went in those two divergent directions, even though you knew both couples were going to be a pivotal part of season 7.
Yeah, just to, have some variation, basically. It's like.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that was kind of intentional, because Brandon was stubbornly going to do what he was going to do with Susan, which he was going to travel the country, and that's what he had told himself, and that's what he had planned, and he did it, And then Kelly had, again, she was, making amends basically in a lot of ways. I mean, I think we come into the season 7, she's like working in the hospice, isn't she? I think.
Yeah.
We haven't looked at
the AIDS hospice.
Because what's fun for us right now, Sherry, is, a lot of us, Michael, I know that also, we haven't looked at these episodes in 25 years. And so it's like, oh, right. Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah. Did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
well,
that's-
there's
Also, we're really pleased, and we're obviously pleased with the fans. You know, really keep us honest in this
Yeah.
in discovering this in our deep dives also.
Yeah, there's
we
a
made-
lot to mine in season 7, but going back to Brandon and Susan's breakup for a second, part of Brandon's anger stems from the fact that he turned down his dream job so that they could have their vacation. Let's say that never happened, that he did not have this offer that he turned down, but his girlfriend got this amazing offer. I can see a version of Brandon being the supportive one, encouraging his girlfriend to go, not wanting her to stay for him out of fear that she would come to resent him or something like that. So I think it very much hinges on the fact that he gave up the job for her, but she wouldn't give up a job for him.
Yeah, we wanted to load it. You know, we wanted to make sure we knew that he was going to be mad at her. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, if he didn't have that, yeah, he would be a jerk if he didn't support her. Why wouldn't he support her? You know, so yeah, no, we wanted to make it a real, you know, quid pro quo. I gave up the, you know, and even that he could have, but you know, she just, you know, it was never going to work out. She was too ambitious, really. You know, he discovered it was an adult discovery for him. It was, you know, we don't really have him dumped too many times other than by Kelly Taylor, I guess.
Yeah.
The scene this was interesting.
The scene with the breakup scene it's a bad breakup. It's not.
Oh, yeah. No,
I mean, it's a really.
He doesn't give her anything. I mean, he gives her the coldest kiss goodbye. It's like a death kiss. And, and again, that leads to the two boys, you know, leaving the party and going to the bar to drink it off, and Pauly Shore is sitting next to him, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Zara wants to know, Nick and Ryan, do you still keep in touch with the cast from 90210 today? She asked that twice, so I'm making sure that I get that in there for you, Zara.
Yeah, absolutely. Before the whole pandemic thing started, Ian reached out to me. He's like, hey, we should get together and hang out. And I'm like, well, you want to come up to Seattle or you want me to come down to LA? He's like, either way, you know, if you come to LA, stay with me. And I said, okay, if you come to Seattle, stay with me. He tried to throw me in one of his Sharknado movies that he did. But it was right around the time when I went to the Super Bowl in 2013 when the Seahawks were playing the Broncos. And it was around the same time that they were filming, but I couldn't get my flights changed up. So I had to pass and I had to go back to work anyway. But yeah, I speak to Ian quite a bit.
Yeah. How about you, Nick? Are you in touch with anybody from the back in the day or no?
No, not really. You know, I would run into Ian every once in a while. He must, you know, live kind of around here. So, you know, I'd be at the Starbucks or up at the gym. I'd run into him and talk to him, you know, but yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Shari, you got any more? Any more?
That was it from my list, I think. But you mentioned how, you know, bitter the breakup scene was with Brandon and Susan, and the line that sticks out in my mind was something to the effect of like, "Forgive me if I don't vote for you when you run for president."
Yes.
And I was thinking that like maybe Susan did go on to become, you know, one of those first female candidates. I can see that now.
I have a fun one for Larry. I'm curious to know. You know, we know what happened to Steve from the perspective of how it was written, right? We know that Steve went on and did a newspaper and all this kind of stuff. In your world, what happened to Steve?
Brandon.
Well, no, I'm talking about Steve Sanders.
Oh, the Beverly Beat.
With the beat.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. So
no, they would be thinking much bigger. Steve would be, you know, probably working for the Lakers or something now, or you know, he'd be like have an executive job for the Lakers, and he'd have a membership in the Soho Club. And, you know, he'd be on his second marriage. He would have, you know, really screwed up and married somebody wrong, probably, and didn't do the prenup like his father told him to. Russia's beating him up on that, so he gave away a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And but happy. You know, I mean, I think he'd be doing big things. You know, again, the thesis of the show is that these were ordinary kids living extraordinary lives. That's when it worked best. Everyone can relate to ordinary kids living the kind of life you want. They're not struggling; they're excelling. And Brandon, you know, I mean, he could have been anything. I mean.
Yeah.
He was set up
for what Brandon might be in the future some other day.
Well, I mean, Brandon was always leaning toward politics or journalism,
right.
But you know, so somehow some combination of the both. I mean, he certainly would not be in the corporate world,
right?
And he was not going to go to law school. So I suspect he probably would have also ended up in Washington also. I mean, he was a guy who really, believed in public service, like my buddy Bill Clinton did when we went to college with him in Georgetown. Much more than me. We were being trained to be diplomats. Oh, I want to say there was one other character we forgot to mention in the show. Claudia Von Eck.
Oh, yeah.
Claudia Von Eck is the one who gives Colin the money. And she was played by
Sugar Mama.
Mary Crosby, who is Bing Crosby's daughter. And it's someone, there she is.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah, I got that for you, Larry. I'm good.
She was kind of a friend of mine because when I first came to Hollywood in 78, I think I was 33, but I was cast nickel like this as a 22-year-old in college. And Mary Crosby was like, also it was after Animal House with a show called Brothers and Sisters, and I kind of played the Muntz role. I think I was kind of like the goofy guy, and Mary Crosby was there. It was Mary Crosby and Chris Lemmon. It got canceled after about 10 episodes, but I always liked Mary, and when we asked her, she came in the show earlier. She had been a couple of episodes, and she really had a little class because if you don't know who she is, and Shari knows who she is, she shot JR.
Oh, wow.
Biggest episode in all television. She was the one who actually did it.
I want to ask you all this question, Michael, Nick, and Larry. And sure, what did you guys haven't seen this episode in a long time? Shari, you're not included in that because I'm sure you saw it pretty recently. But going back and rewatching this, do you think it still holds up? What do you think of this episode, Michael?
Let's see. I think it holds up. I do. I mean, I think a lot of the issues that they were dealing with, we're still dealing with.
Yeah.
And I mean, no, I think it holds up. Really does.
And what about for you, Nick, looking back at your performances in this and all the performances in this, do you think that this still holds up for you? Did you enjoy watching it?
Yeah, you know what? I actually did enjoy. I haven't seen it in so many years, and I think probably earlier on I was probably pretty critical of some of my work, rewatching and stuff. So I had enough distance with this project where it's almost like a far off memory. So watching it again was kind of rewarding, to tell you the truth. I thought, wow, this is kind of cool, and there's some great performances in here, and it was an awesome experience, one that I'll never forget, of course. And so
Very
for
cool.
me, it holds up.
Yeah, no, for me too. I think for all of us watching this, it does. Well, let's see, Larry.
Again, it played as a 2-hour. It was not a 2-parter. So people should remember that this just played like a movie.
Sure.
Again, in May sweeps. So this was a money show. This was a Moneyball show. And it was big. I mean, it was just the outrageous. It's outrageous in a lot of ways, the show. I mean, and I thought all the storylines, really for a season ender, I was very proud of how everyone had stuff to do. Because, part of your job is you got to have material for your actors. I mean, you can't leave anybody out, and everyone's got to, do their stuff. And I kind of thought it really had a nice balance to it and a good thrust. And again, the timeline was really good. The party being the centerpiece of everything, and in and out of that. And I was pretty down. I think it's an underrated show. I haven't really looked at the fan rating stuff, but I know it's not certainly up there. But it's certainly for the attempt, the ambitiousness of the show, and what Michael captured on that stuff. It's big and mighty. And again, we didn't go over budget. And that was something that, again, if Chuck was here, we were always very proud of the fact that our show was we did it right. I mean, we were responsible producers.
Now, listen, so here's what's coming next week. All right, this was great, guys. I really appreciate everyone being here. Next week, I'm going to run the promo for you, but we're all back, right? So Chuck and Larry and Lily, we're all going to be back. And, well, let me show you the promo.
You asked for it, and it's coming next to the Beverly Hills 90210 show. You will have an opportunity to join the new evolution.
We have evolved.
That's right. On Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Chuck.
We're having a meeting here?
Larry.
Get out of here!
Chip Johansson, Pete, and Lily will be joined by Alan Toy, a.k.a. Professor Finley himself. to talk about the storyline that saw Kelly Taylor join a cult. So don't be an extra.
Why are you being a negator?
Or a negator. Head over to BeverlyHills90210show.com to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and one of our lucky subscribers is going to get an awesome surprise this Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. BeverlyHills90210show.com.
Unless you're willing to evolve, you're never going to understand.
Yeah, I literally can't wait for that episode next week. Yeah.
Insane.
So Alan Toy is going to join us, Professor Finley. He's going to be with us.
Talking about great casting. I mean, that was,
yeah.
Thank God.
A
That
lot
was
of good
Paul
stuff.
Wagner pushing him on.
Chip Johannessen's going to be with us as well, joining us. Chip Johannesson.
Yes. I mean, so much of that crazy stuff is in Chip's twisted mind.
Yeah.
The new evolution. Yeah.
So that's on Wednesday. And listen, we have a little thing that we're running. We want to have one of you join us next week. So all you have to do is subscribe to us on YouTube and get everybody to subscribe. Whoever gets the most subscribers, you just got to show us what you did and show us the subscriptions, or we'll figure all that out. But email me, show me that you subscribed, and we're going to pick one of you to join us for a few minutes on the podcast next week. So this was a lot of fun. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Michael, it's always great to have you.
Guys, thanks. Michael, great, terrific work. I mean, no surprise you did the opening.
Call me Months, dude. Call me Months.
And don't forget, you can always go to the Beverly Hills 90210showshop.com to pick up some merchandise, all that. And there he is. He's wearing a Ray Pruitt shirt. I've got my Welcome to Paradise shirt on. And we will catch you Wednesday.
And Shari, bye, Shari. Thank you so much. You were terrific on the show. And
fantastic.
Thanks for all you've done.
Love you. And
my pleasure. Would love to come back anytime.
All right.
Yeah.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks again.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You got it.